every day you wake up, there is something standing in the way of everything that you want, that you dream of, and 9 times out of 10 is typically you.
What up? You are now tuned in to another episode of Mind Your Business. I'm your host, Maceo Tendaji, and today we sit atop the beautiful Charm City. On today's episode, we're tapping in with one of Baltimore's most famous chefs. I'm talking about somebody who's brought you the restaurant Papi Cuisine and now expanding his brand with his product, Papi Cuisine Foods. I'm talking about none other than Chef Alex Perez. This is an entrepreneur who has literally built his business from the bottom and now expanding his brand across the nation and eventually across the globe. Chef Papi is one of them ones. He's a heavy hitter. This is an episode that you definitely don't want to miss. So without further ado, let's get into it. Yo, Alex, what's going on, good brother?
What is up?
How you feeling, man?
Doing great, making this warhead shrimp.
All right, okay, cool. So tell me a little bit more about this dish. Why is it called Warhead, first and foremost?
You know, so the warhead is the sauce that we use for the shrimp to toss it in after we fry. So you're familiar with like a bang bang shrimp?
Yeah.
So I made my own rendition of that, but I couldn't call it, bang bang, and it was, a bit more intense than like the, a bang bang sauce is though. So I needed to come up with a name that really signified like how more intense it was.
Okay.
But not overbearing, and just to make it my own. So, warhead.
Cool. So talk to us a little bit about the specifics of the ingredients you have here.
Yeah, so right now, so the warhead sauce itself is like a mayo-based sauce, has some Thai chili, some sriracha, some spice in there. And then there's some components from the Papi Cuisine Foods line, like our rub, which is like an all-purpose, Cajun rub. And a little bit of other things that I can't necessarily go into, but
okay. So we getting exclusive access right now. So that's what he's saying.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit more about how you got your food products off the ground. I know this is a relatively new development.
Yeah, man. So I think a lot of people don't know, before like the restaurant, before the food delivery and things like that, I went into creating, Papi Cuisine for the intention of creating products. So this is, back in 2012, 2013. And, I foreseen like the products on shelves across, United States and one day globally. And I needed a way to get the trust out there, with the audience. So I said, let me start cooking the food using these products that I'm creating in the kitchen. And then, it turned into this food delivery service. And then, eventually pop-ups. And, then I started to do some e-commerce. And I actually brought the house rub to the market. But at the time, there was like a trademark issue, because I use a word fusion in the labeling of the product. And so started to go to court for that.
Wow.
And this is right between the time, that I'm in the midst of opening the restaurant. So the restaurant ends up opening, and I had the option to like fight it and, and use that verbiage on the label. But what I decided to do is like, forget it. I'm going to come back to this because right now the restaurant is booming, and then COVID hits, and then everyone's wondering what's going on, like what we're going to do, and then the restaurant just explodes, and so much of my time and attention was going to just kind of, curating things and making sure that the restaurant was growing, where it needed to grow. And eventually what I started to see is that maybe over 50% of our patrons were coming from out of town, and there was a lot of response that, customers wanted to taste the food, in their homes. So I said, maybe be a great idea to go back into, putting products together.
Right.
And in 2022, I went back to the process of developing products, and, I made sure I wanted to develop them in a few different categories: oils, balsamics, the breaders, spices, sauces. We even have empanadas as well coming to the frozen section.
Okay.
A few other things. So kind of wanted to do some products that people, were familiar with at the restaurant, and then some other products, that I may have been sitting on that I thought the audience would love. So.
Right, gotcha. So these are already in stores now?
Yeah, so we're in Kroger now, and there is a handful of other retailers that we're in the pipeline with, typically like with retail, you'll go through submissions, demos, and you might do a demo in June, but you might not go into stores until January of next year.
Wow.
So we've been loading those in a pipeline. So some of them I can't talk about,
Okay.
but it's exciting as we're doing these full division rollouts, and I'm traveling from here to the West Coast, everything in between, you know, to pretty much connect with the buyers and, you know, secure contracts. So there's a lot in store, to say the least, though. So.
Sounds like it. We got some more exclusive stuff on the way, and these products right here are already in stores for sale. Talk to us about what you have here.
Yeah, so as I said, when it comes to the retail market, you know, you're dealing with buyers in different categories. So you might have a buyer that you're dealing with the oils. You might have a buyer that deals specifically with the breaders or the spices. Right now, our spices are in stores in Kroger. And essentially what I wanted to do is I wanted to create something that, you know, people, how can I put this? When it comes to Papi Cuisine, it's kind of like an elevated casual concept, you know, so we do like a lot of, if you go to certain restaurants out here that's like a high-end steakhouse, like we'll serve a similar, you know, cuisine, but like at a better price point, you know, and then, you know, things that are like more approachable, if you will. So we try to find a fine line between that, and I wanted to kind of get a bit health conscious with the breaders, so we ended up making them gluten-free.
Nice.
And we ended up also taking the MSG out of them as well.
Really?
And, you know, want to see if we could create a product that was, you know, everyone, you know, could consume but still love. You know, so that's what we have here. We also have, this is one of our main oils, which is the herb garlic oil. We have also like a lemon infused. We also have a rosemary infused. Then we have our balsamics.
Nice.
You know, fig, strawberry, chocolate covered cherry. Like I should pull out the sales list. We got a list of
This man got every type of product you could think of.
Yeah, you know,
that's
sauces and the list goes on. So,
wow. So I definitely want to talk more about the products a little bit later.
Yeah.
But walk us through this process of this recipe right here. I want to let you go ahead and do your thing and cook up real quick.
Gotcha. Yeah. So what we're doing now is, you know, shrimp, they're already peeled into vein. I'm just taking the shells off, and I'm leaving the shells on the tail. And just wanted to kind of get them thawed and everything first. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to dredge them in some of this olive oil, some of our house rub, and then I'm going to let it marinate in some buttermilk for like a few minutes, just so that they get a bit tender. And then I'm going to dredge them in our deluxe, you know, breading.
Nice.
And let them sit on the rack for maybe like 15 minutes, and then we're going to fry them. We're going to toss that in our warhead sauce. And as I told you off camera, like, this is going to look real pretty. So I don't want people coming and saying, like, you know, this shit don't look like this in the restaurant. You know,
right. This is
you know, but it's a
here.
difference, you know. You know, I'm passionate about the art of cooking, and you know, sometimes you might not get to plate things to the intensity that I might plate them, you know.
Right.
We got to do something that's simplistic, you know. But yeah, actually, I love what I do, you know, and I think that's one of the things that got me into this, just having a love for art in general.
Right. No, definitely, man. I'm excited. This sounds like it's going to be amazing for all you seafood lovers out there. Y'all missing out because y'all not here. But we're going to let Alex go ahead and do his thing. And yeah, we're going to pick back up and see what we got. So this dish right here, the warhead shrimp, right?
Yes.
This looks amazing. Talk to us a little bit about the finished product and the plating process as well.
Yeah, you know, so what we went ahead and did is after those shrimp marinated in the buttermilk, we went ahead and dredged them in that Papi Cuisine deluxe breading, you know, Cajun breading, and then we went ahead and tossed them and the warhead sauce. So the plating aspect is one of the most important things outside of the actual taste of the food, is because I'm an artist and I love to create, and I feel like people eat with their eyes, you know, and you know, when something, you know, looks great, you know, it just makes people gravitate towards it even more. And I think it definitely has a lot to do with the experience that people, the experience surrounding like just consuming food in general.
For sure.
You know, so yeah, the plating is a must. You know, I zero in, get very intentional, and I just kind of like feel my way through it. And I just try to use, you know, what I have available at my hands to make it work. So, you know, every plate might not look the same always.
Right.
You know, so this is the first time I plated this dish like this.
Wow. Okay.
But so it's just something that it comes natural to me. I love, probably one of my most favorite parts of cooking is plating.
So self-taught when it comes to plating?
Yes, yeah, you know, and pretty much, you know, I'll read books, you know, YouTube, and then, you know, just kind of going through that whole process, I realized like, damn, like, it really just kind of boils down to like what you feel. And even when like I'm drawing and painting, like I do it from like what I'm feeling, you know. So I take that same thing and I apply it to, you know, food, if you will.
I love that, and I can definitely see it in the final product. The love, the passion, the time, the effort, and the commitment is all there. And I feel like that's why you've had so much success in this industry. Yep. So thanks for, hopefully we can try this out. You know what I mean? I know the crew has been over here just salivating, just waiting for a bite. Definitely want to check this out. Is this on your menu now?
Yeah, so this is actually, you can get this dish at the restaurant, the Warhead Shrimp, yep.
Okay, cool, cool. So y'all heard it here first. Make sure y'all go to Papi Cuisine, get the Warhead Shrimp. You saw it here first on Mind Your Business. Alex, thanks for showing us this process. We're gonna transition to our sit-down interview, but this looks amazing. And I'm gonna get a few bites before we get the interview started. I've been waiting so long just to get one bite. Let's see what we got going on here, man.
Got you. So that's, hate to go off camera, but I'm gonna get some of our sauce over here too. So that's just by itself without much sauce, and I should give you.
That's amazing.
If you want to try it with the sauce as well.
With the sauce, you know what I mean?
That's that Warhead sauce.
Oh my goodness, that's good right there. Y'all gotta get you some of this right here. What's it? Warhead Shrimp.
Yep.
This is next level from Bang Bang. This is, bro, you did that. All right, so Alex, we saw you in the kitchen. We talked about the food specifically, but take us back a little bit. Rewind us to the very beginning, to your roots. Where did you, or how did you fall in love with cooking, and who was like your major influence behind that?
Got it. So I would have to say my father and my grandmother on my mother's side was a big influence in the whole like me entering in, you know, to cooking. Honestly, I remember as far back before I even got into school, you know, trying to mix concoctions in the kitchen. You know, we didn't really have a lot of food or like options. So I would remember like my older brother like mixing like Bisquick and putting it in the oven. We would eat like biscuits and jelly, like, so it goes back to that, you know, before I even got into school, you know, being hungry and doing that. And as I got older, you know, I would travel to New York more. I would go fishing with my father. We would like catch fish, you know, scale them, got them, you know, we would bring them back and roast them. And I just was like learning those traditional dishes, you know, we would eat back in, you know, Dominican Republic, you know, those flavors, and just kind of getting like more so engulfed into the, just like the whole culture and so forth. And then, you know, I started to kind of pay attention to things that my grandmother on my mother's side would do, you know, how she would set the table, you know, how you had to present yourself at the table, like the special dishes she would use. And, you know, she kind of like made us feel like we were like coming to eat at a fancy restaurant, you know, when we would, you know, eat at her house. And I just kind of like started taking those influences and combining them, you know, and eventually I ended up developing my own style of cooking. And so that's pretty much where the background comes from.
There's a lot of ingenuity involved with humble beginnings, right? You guys are doing the best with what you had, but you also were exposed to another side of living with your grandma and how the presentation of food and how it was like, it sounded like she made it like a big deal.
Yeah, she made a big deal, and she had her favorite like china and dishes that she would keep, that no one can touch, and special pans and things like that she would cook with. So, I kind of like soaked those things in, and I think subconsciously I started applying that to like my craft, and like when I would cook.
Right.
And that's just where it begun. And on my father side of things, there was a lot of pretty much making something out of nothing, taking dishes in the bare minimum and creating some extravagant things. And I think, like culturally speaking, that actually goes beyond, when I got into the space of cooking. That's just been a thing, like in our culture, like taking what we have and making something great out of it, making it as flavorful as possible. And I just kind of honed in and pretty much took that energy and put it into the craft.
Right. Cool. So it sounds like, you found a passion and a love for cooking, but where did the business come into play? How did you make that transition from just, I love to cook and making money?
Well, coming from where I come from, grew up in the like the projects, and I upgrade. Well, actually I want to say like the slums, and I upgraded to the projects. And there was always, then when I would vacation in New York, I went to South Bronx, the projects. I would go, to vacation up in South Bronx with my dad's side of the family. Okay. And, needless to say, there was always this dream that there was something better, something higher to reach. And I've always been optimistic, no matter what challenges I face. So I always knew that, people on TV that's doing X, Y, Z, like I can do that too. And, I'm human just like them. So at a very early age, I had a love for business. So I would like take baseball, basketball cards, football cards that, sometimes NFL players or baseball players would do outreach in my neighborhood, and they would give out cards, and it got to a point where I had a lot of them. So like, maybe I can resell these. So I would rubber band them up, set the table out like on a front porch. I would do like a bartering system, like where, I would have I would find a wheel, I'll find a bike frame, then a seat. I'll put the bike together, and then I would trade that bike to get something else. So, I think business has always been in my veins from a very early age. And I think I was at a point in my life where I wanted to decide on a solid career, because I was like going from job to job, and I always wanted to own my own business. I just never thought I thought of so many different things I could do. Like I got into tattooing, started trying to sell cars, and I was thinking like, what is something that I can do that people actually need and I can find my niche in? And food was that thing. And it got down to a point where I had a few decisions, like go deeper into tattooing or go into food, and start selling food. And I chose food because I figured that people might want tattoos, but you're gonna live if you don't get a tattoo. You don't eat, you die. Right. I find my lane in food that I can do some amazing things. And I think at that time as well, this is when Instagram first came out. I'm posting and people are like, damn, this shit look like it's in a restaurant. Like you should consider actually like pursuing this. And I got to that point like, what? People say that my food looks like it's in a restaurant. Maybe I should pursue this. Right. And I ended up pursuing it. And from that point on, like I took that ride, and I ended up coming up with this name, Papi Cuisine. And pretty much at that point in time, I developed my own like flavor profiles and style of cooking. And it was a fusion style. So Papi Cuisine, just to me, what it meant was just like a fusion, or like a cuisine from my perspective. So Papi Cuisine, like this is my cuisine, right, my creation. So at that point in time, just like when we were talking about like how I got into the product space. When I thought about Papi Cuisine, I thought about products on the shelves, being on Food Network, and just so many different things, you know. I didn't just want to just sell food. There's so many different entry points into the food industry, and I wanted to explore them all, and I wanted to build this brand up. So I ended up starting with, you know what, let me take these products that I'm developing at home, and I'm going to, you know, cook with them, and I'm going to sell the food. And the first day that I opened up, I was going to have people picking up from the house, and I only had one person show up to the, when I launched, you know, there were people for weeks saying like, yeah, you know, sell the food, we're going to buy it. And I'm getting everybody hyped up and everything, posting the menu. I'm like, all right, cool, today is the day. And I had one person come through, somebody I've known for like 20 plus years at that point in time. And I think I just took the information that I gathered from that day, because I didn't look at it as a failure. I was like, you know, listen to what people are saying. Most people are saying that they can't leave their place of employment. So I figure, like, you know, maybe I just need to deliver the food to them. At the point in time, I didn't have a steady car. So I was thinking, like, what can I do? So I said, you know what, all right, let's do this. Let me go get a part-time job. I'm going to use that money to invest back into the company. And I wanted to get a job that I was only required to be there maybe like 25 hours a week, so I can put the remaining of my time into building the company. And I started doing that, you know, and started delivering and started catching on fire. And it got to the point where I started making the money that I would make a day, you know, at the job. I would make that running Papi Cuisine.
Wow.
Yeah, so I started, you know, air started going up and everything like that. And then it got to the point where I started making my paycheck that I would make in 2 weeks in a day. And I was like, yeah, this thing is going up. Yeah, this thing is going up. So I said, you know what? How can I dive completely into this field, you know, and pretty much give this business my all? Because right now it's either the job is getting in the way of the business at this point, but how can I do it safely? So I went to my management at the job, and I told them, like, yeah, man, I got a lot of shit going on, you know, and I'm gonna need to take a leave of absence maybe for like 3 months. So that was like my, right. But hey, they approved it though.
Right.
Because the thing is, I wanted a safety net, so I had something to come back to.
Right, that's smart.
And
You don't wanna burn no bridges.
and you know, I didn't want to burn any bridges. They were like very family oriented, but they were very professional. And I just kind of wanted to get in front of it. And you know, once I did that, man, I think this is in 2014 or 2015. Like, I never looked back.
Wow.
You know, once I took that leave of absence, I never like went back. And I'm not saying that everything was just all gravy. I just kept shooting up. It was many challenges, ups and downs, and so many different things, you know, going through that process, learning like how to just manage a business. And with all the problems, one thing I noticed was this, that people love what I'm doing. The following is growing, the community, you know, around the business is growing. If I can hold out long enough, I can get to the point where maybe somebody wants to invest and scale the business up with me, or, you know, I'll get like a major opportunity to really make this a permanent, you know, thing. I mean, although that was all I was doing, you know, I was just running Papi Cuisine once I left the job.
Yeah. Nah, that's great, man. Thanks for that summary, that breakdown. I want to fast forward a little bit to, okay, now you got the brick and mortar space, right? You're actually running a functioning restaurant.
Yes.
What are some issues that came about that, you know, the average person wouldn't know about the restaurant industry?
Man, so
I know you got some stories.
yeah, man. Shit, we don't think we got enough time to tell all of them, but it's a lot. And what I mean by a lot is that when you're coming into the space, I mean, it sounds cool and everything. Like, yeah, I'm gonna get my restaurant. You're excited, et cetera, et cetera. And then you get into it and you start to realize that there's so many other things just like outside. Because, you know, I love to cook, I love to create, I love to plate. And, you know, there's a major creative aspect, and, you know, when it comes to launching a concept. But then there's the other side that keeps that restaurant or that business running, that is, you know, yeah, you got to get creative in that space as well, but it's a different type of, you know, creative space you're in. You know, you got to be more structured, and, you know, there's so many things that happen. You know, sometimes you guys got to go through them to learn what you need to do and what you don't need to do in a space. So when we started going through the process to open the first location, the space had a liquor license and everything like that. And we're thinking like, all right, cool, we're going to be open, in a couple of months. And, it did not work like that. So we went into the space. We had some workers like building like the space out. And it turned out they were meth heads. No disrespect to meth heads, but I'm just saying, they took like 6 or so months to put down like a flooring and like a 200 square feet space, like dining area. And we was just wondering like, what the hell are they doing? Then you find out that they were like stealing like pots and pans and like for scraps and stuff like that. And, we ended up hiring another company. They literally came in and did it in 5 hours, what they were taking like 3 to 5 months to do.
Crazy.
And, so we're like, all right, cool. We got this done. We got the equipment in. Okay, let's get the liquor license. And we started going through that process. And we're at the finish line. And then they come out, oh, yeah, you guys got to talk to your attorney because something came up and, we're not going to be able to give you a license. And then we went through that whole process and we finally got the license. And this is January 27th of 2020. So we start preparing to do like our family and friends opening for February 8th. We ended up, opening February 8th. For those next few weeks, reservations are booking out months and months in advance. Wow. Everyone is loving everything. When we first got into the space, it's different when you're cooking for somebody like I come to your house and I cook, or I'm cooking like a catering event. But when you are cooking and the person can see you at the kitchen and you're cooking, and they're wondering why their food is taking 2 hours and I can see you cooking my food. Why is it taking this long? We had it was a point in time we had 2-hour ticket times. And now at Papi's, if it takes more than 15 minutes to come out, they're looking at you crazy. Right. But it took us time to get a system down to cut those ticket times, make sure we didn't compromise the food, still get it out fresh, hot, and so forth. And then March 15th, 2020, on a Sunday, restaurant is packed. On the news, all restaurants got to shut down tomorrow and get COVID. Yep. And I'm like, if the world was to shut down because of after the person like opens something or does something big like in their life, it would be me. That's how I felt. Like the world would shut down when I opened my first restaurant, and we sat on it for a couple of days. Just wondering like, look, all right, we already got the model. We were doing like pop-ups. Right. And people were like used to like coming and ordering and things like that online and picking their food up. So like, let's implement that same model during COVID here in this space, and the rest is history, I like to say, because man, the lines wrapped around that restaurant, double parked for blocks and blocks and blocks up the street, total disturbance in the neighborhood, then we're battling with the neighborhood, and they're calling 311, they're calling the police, they're calling the liquor board, they're calling the housing authority, they're calling everyone that they could possibly call, Wow. And so we had to navigate through that, and also the traffic that we experienced in that space is kind of, ran the wheels off, off the space. And by the end of that year, we had to upgrade the space and move to the Fair Hill location. Gotcha. Because it was just too small for the traffic.
Wow. So you had mentioned something a little while back about getting systemized.
Yes.
Now, I was always curious about how does a chef come up with these different recipes, right? You can cook them great because they're your recipes. How do you take that and implement that into other chefs? And they're not gonna be able to cook it as well as you. But it at least has to be like good enough. What does that look like from a systematic standpoint of like you need everybody on the same page, cooking the same thing the same way? What does that look like?
So the way you go through that is you got to take the recipe, no matter how simple it is, and break it down to the T. And I think prior to coming into the restaurant space, I had mentors in the space, and and people that I would see, that's in the space. They already had like a restaurant and things like that. And one of the guys was Derek. I don't know if he used to have the spot called Homemade. Now he has a Cloudy Donuts.
He's up in New York now, right?
Yeah. So I remember going into the kitchen with Derek, and we were planning to do like some events together and things like that. And he was like, okay, all right, so what is a dish that you're cooking? I'm like, all right, this is a dish. And he said, like, all right, so like, how do you cook it? I'm like, yeah, you just throw this in here, da da da. He's like, well, how many minutes? I mean, it's like 4 or 5 minutes. Like, no, what is the exact time?
Right.
And I'm like, and it just kind of made you think like completely different. So we literally went into the kitchen, and the menu that we were going to do for like this event that we were going to do, we literally broke everything down to the T. Okay, it takes me this amount of seconds to walk to this side of the kitchen to grab this. It takes this amount of seconds to do this. It takes this amount of seconds for it to go into the fryer. It takes this amount of minutes for it to go into the oven. And it takes this amount of minutes for, to plate in. Literally got, down to the nitty and gritty, like every second counts. And then this needs to be factored into the system, because you might think like, oh yeah, I'm cooking, like, man, it probably take, 10, 20 minutes, and it's an hour or two and somebody's waiting for their food, So being able to break down and I want to say micromanage the every single thing that we were doing in the space, it just gave us the ability to build systems around that. So now, instead of me going and kind of like cooking something from scratch, you have a PAR system, you have like extensive prep, so by the time it's ready for a customer to order, it's literally going to take a few minutes to cook it rather than like the whole process. So for instance, a lot of people they might think like, well, cooking shrimp is easy. You peel them, you season them, and let's say if you're going to sear them or you're going to throw them in the fryer.
Right.
But doing that on the level, serving maybe 500 people that day, that's a different story. So that shrimp has to be peeled and everything prior to the restaurant opening. It needs to be seasoned, and anything else that you're going to use, like the sauces, I'm not going to make the sauce for the shrimp right there from scratch. That has to be prepped beforehand. So just getting into those systems of prepping, and I'm having things ready to go. Some things being par cooked, so when they order, you can get that the dishes out as quick as possible. And then also investing into the proper equipment, like, we invest into combi ovens, from the rationale. And this gives you the ability to cook things in a third of the time without compromising the integrity of the food as well. So, but they're very expensive, We're talking about a $30,000 to $40,000 oven, and we have 2 of them. And then you gotta buy the hood that sits on top of the oven. That's another $5,000 to $10,000. But, and the list goes on with that. So just really just taking the revenue coming in, investing back into the company, and also me allowing, because yes, I've been cooking, but I'm like a home cook, and things like that. I don't really have a lot of experience cooking in a restaurant. So my chefs that I started to bring in, they had experience for years in the restaurant industry. And I always wanted to bring other chefs up under me. So I would sit back and let them do their thing as well. And I would also learn from them, just like they're learning from me.
Wow, no, I love that. I know we got we're short on time. But I want you to at least talk about your content creation, because I know that's been a huge part of your marketing, when it comes to social media. How did you approach your content creation, and how has that helped your business?
That was the thing too. So one, I've been like in love with like photography and film since I could remember, very early age. So another one of my passions, I guess everybody know now because they've been seeing me kind of be more open with it. So I would always have I've always been the type of person that I would look at a movie and I would pick it apart. I'd be wondering like, okay, why did they shoot this scene like this? What camera did they use? Or I wonder what type of lighting then, is this CGI? Just fully immersed in that whole process, because I was very big on visually how anything I do looks, and pretty much people eat with their eyes, even if it's not food, people consume with their eyes though. So I'm into, I'm an artist,
Right.
I draw, I paint, I sculpt, I do so many different things. So I'm used to invoking like the emotion that I feel when I create, and visually speaking, I want it to look a specific way though. So I did a lot of, through the years, I was just learning like, how do I present my art of food on social media? And it definitely took time and research, and also looking at trends, seeing like what work and how can I like incorporate that into my own style, and just show the food the best way possible. And going through that process is how I started to grow my following, and then I took a break once the restaurant opened, and I wanted to get back into it, so I went ahead and started purchasing like some professional cameras, and then I started, hiring like Matt to come in, and we would start collabing, and I would tell him like, yeah, this is what I'm looking to shoot, and I'm looking forward to feel like this, and et cetera, et cetera. So I started directing and writing the concepts and things like that, and he would shoot it because I didn't know my way around a camera, like, at that point in time, and then he started mentoring me, and
he created a monster, by the way.
Yeah, that's what people say.
we be texting like, yo, look what you did. Like,
right.
He going off right now.
Right, man. I think, man, it's surreal just kind of looking at people in the industry that like I respect in the film industry, and them looking at what I'm doing, and I'm just kind of like a newcomer in the space, because like I love it. Like, I'm very passionate about it. So being able to be recognized that I'm actually doing something right in the space is, I can't even explain how it feels. But yeah, that's how that started, and it just got to a point where people, they know like, oh yeah, he's in the space, so I just constantly get mentored. I feel like you never, you can never know enough. You're always, I'm always open to learn, and people just kept teaching me and mentoring me. Like, I would hire people, and I'm learning like, okay, you got to do this to put this code in to work the robot like this, and et cetera, et cetera. So, it's always, it's a joy. And what I do is I take that back and I practice it myself, and, find my own style in it, and just put the work out. And then also show people, because now people are starting to look up to me and like ask questions and like, how you do this, and, looking for a mentorship, if you will.
Right. No, I love that, man. You definitely hit the ground running when it comes to not just content creation, but like video production. And I know, you want to transition to film as well. So
yes,
I think that's going to be I'm not going to say a smooth transition,
right,
but it's definitely going to happen.
You
can already see you laid down the groundwork for that. My next question is, so many restaurants come and go. You see them pop up, they're here for 5 years and then they're gone. How have you managed to have staying power in the restaurant industry? And if you could also talk about, some of the expenses that come with owning a restaurant, so people can know what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah, so every restaurant obviously is different. You have the route that you can go where maybe as a restaurant brand is already up and running, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, et cetera, et cetera. There's franchising fees and other fees associated with the land, the building, and so forth. Or you can birth a concept from scratch, if you will. There are a lot of expenses, just conceptually speaking, getting to the point where you're branding and just kind of positioning yourself. So I kind of took my time doing that through the years before we opened the restaurant, getting the community involved, getting like a nice foundation and things like that. And I think that there was points of time where people they literally experienced me delivering the food to them. I might have someone working the phones, I had other drivers out, and I always put myself on the line, during the earlier stages, even all the way up to when we opened the first location, and I know that would resonate well with people, and that has been one of the main components as to why we're successful still to this day, because we touched a lot of people, and a lot of people were able to see the transparency and me building this brand, and they know it wasn't done overnight. So everybody has a story. They had a story of either me delivering to their house, them coming to pick up the food, or maybe I went and did catering. I catered their wedding or something up in New Jersey, and the list goes on and on and on. And just kind of building that community, building the my personal brand before this was even a thing. That's a lot of people talk about that on social media a lot. So a lot of the tips that people were giving me on social media now about building brands, like I was like doing these things like actively in the community, like building the trust in the consumer. And when something would go wrong, I would be quick to fix it, and and that we just kind of factor that into the cost. But in regards to cost, it really depends on the level of the restaurant. You got obviously the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month things, rent, gas and electric, list goes on, et cetera, et cetera. Then you got build-out costs, you have maintenance costs,
right,
and there are so many costs.
Yeah.
And I think most restaurants, no matter what they're making, a lot of them, they might fall in that 5 to 8% profit margin. And then if they're doing a little bit better, they might fall into that 10 to 15%. And then you have your unicorns that fall into that 25 to 35% profit margin, you know, space.
And how are you calculating that profit margin? Is it like per dish or day to day, week to week?
Well, no, we're calculating overall revenue, you know, for the year and like what was taken away. But we also price our dishes on a level where we know that, okay, to make this dish is going to cost X amount of dollars in payroll. It's going to cost X amount of dollars in the actual food.
Right.
The any like raw ingredients is going to cost this much in energy. The rent is X amount of dollars monthly, et cetera, et cetera. And then you gotta see, okay, this is my cost to make this dish.
Right.
You know, so for instance, popular dish, the honey jerk lamb chops might cost us $15 all in, you know, with the lamb chops, the this, that, third, and other. But then there's other costs, miscellaneous costs, you know, that you don't think about. And, you know, but we still want to have competitive price points for people. You know, sometimes people complain about price, but like we'll sell like lamb chops, you'll get 2 sides, you'll get that for $35, right? 4 lamb chops. And some people say, oh, they're high, but you go to a place and you're paying $15 to $20 per lamb chop.
Right.
And there's no sides that come with it though, you know, so.
I paid $17 for some baby lamb chops one time. It was just 2 of them.
Yeah, there were places, you know, that the same people that come to our restaurant, they went to this other place I'm not going to mention, and those lamb chops were like $25 per lamb chop.
Right.
I remember we sell a lot of lamb chops. I remember us selling so much. We actually went to that place to buy cases of lamb chops from them because we use the same lamb chop.
Wow.
It's just they sell theirs at one price point. We sell ours at another price point.
Crazy.
So yeah, but yeah, like there are a lot of standard expenses, but then there are you know, there are your miscellaneous expenses when the buildings start falling apart. The walk-in, you know, it conked out, or these expensive ovens, they need to be serviced because they're not cleaning properly or cooking properly, right. You know, or somebody comes and they light the restaurant on fire, you know.
Actually
right, yeah. Like you just never know.
Yeah.
You just never know.
Man, that's crazy. I got so many questions, but I know we got to wrap up.
Yeah.
Words of wisdom. We always ask our guests to wrap things up with a word of wisdom. If you had to speak to, you know, say somebody in high school and they're interested in getting to the restaurant industry, what's some advice that you would give to them?
Well, one, I would tell them, if you, this is the same, people say, you know, you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, bring people. You know, bringing the right people in who know what they're doing is so crucial. I mean, I get it. You know, when you're first starting out, you might not have the capital to do so. But there's a lot of sacrifices that people make, you know, even with a small amount of capital, and they might put into something that isn't going to necessarily get them as far as they think. Invest into people, because even like in the where I'm at right now, I'm, you know, developing products. There are so many people around me who know more about this process than what I do. You know, I'm new to the game, so I invest in those people, bringing their knowledge and their expertise so I can go further and I can make a bigger impact. And that's what I would suggest. You know, I think a lot of people are afraid to bring people into their house, you know, and to take care of their baby, if you will. But that's going to be the only way you're going to be able to scale up and expand. And it's the saying I've been saying to myself lately, is that every day you wake up, there is something standing in the way of everything that you want, that you dream of, and 9 times out of 10 is typically you. Yeah,
I love that. I love that. I feel like you're speaking to me, because I'm very protective.
You got to get out of your own way.
yeah. That's anybody who knows me. I'm super protective of my brand.
Yeah.
You know, I have a lot of trust issues, and I have a hard time bringing people into the fold. But I love that piece of advice, that wisdom that you just shared. Yeah. How can people get in touch with your brand, social media, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so if you want to follow the restaurant, you go to Papi Cuisine. That's PAPICUISINE on Instagram, Twitter, X, that's what they're calling it. If you want to follow the product line, Papi Cuisine Foods, it's Papi Cuisine Foods, you know, on IG and everything. And if you want to follow my personal page, I'm Chef Alex Perez _.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Chef Alex Perez, thank you so much, man. You gave us so much knowledge, experience, and wisdom throughout your journey. You gave us the whole background of your story.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate you stopping by. From black man to black man, I'm proud of you, bro.
Thank you.
Keep going, keep striving, keep being great. And we want to hear from you all. So if you are an entrepreneur and a creative and you want to be in this seat, please get in touch with us. Email us at myb@iconicvisions.com, and also tap in with my personal brand, MACEO_TENDAJI, and tap in with the production company as well. That's IKONIC_visions. And until next time, we're going to continue to mind your business.